Okay, well, good morning. Those of you that haven't given me an 8.5 by 11 of your Charlie Harper, I'd love to have one just for my records. No rush. I won't mark you late. If you give it to me later, it's not a big deal. Obviously, you will have posted it by now, which is a good thing. Today, we're going to continue on in the world of AutoCAD, and today's kind of a day for you to spend some time exploring on your own. I'm going to give you some miscellaneous tips, etc. But you're going to start working on your assignment 105, which is a cabin in Yosemite Valley. We'll talk about the actual location. I'll show you the location in some photographs in just a second. And so I gave you two handouts today. One is what you're doing, exercise 121, and the other is your assignment 105. Basically, what we're going to draw in AutoCAD is a floor plan and 4 elevations. So no sections of this, just kind of the basics of a design, so to speak. You will then, in assignment 106, take that design and make it 3D in SketchUp. And then we'll talk about how to collage out of SketchUp and Photoshop and that sort of thing. So this particular building is going to take you through the next 2 assignments. So spend some time today really thinking about it, make it a good building rather than a not so good building. That being said, if you get to the end of assignment 105 and hate your building and want to change it, it's okay for 106 to change it. But that's kind of where we're going with this. I have a brief outline of some programmatic details. This is a class about graphics, not a class about design. I will not be overly critical about your design decisions. That's more for studio environment. But at the same time, it's a good filler piece for a portfolio, so it's worth doing a good job on it. Besides just making it pretty. You have your clients are a husband and wife with no children. This is a cabin, so it's not a primary residence. It's someplace they're going to go for a weekend getaway. It is in Yosemite, which means that it could not actually be built, but we love giving sites in the world of architectural studios that are non-buildable sites, owned by the public, that sort of thing, because they're a good place to go visit. So if this was a studio class, we'd all go visit it, which would be really fun, but that's kind of a side thing. Obviously, we're not going to do it. So it's a husband and wife. They're requesting 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, approximately 400 square feet. They're requesting a living space with a fireplace and windows that quote, capture the site of about 200 square feet. A kitchen open to the living space of about 150 square feet. A dining space of about 150 square feet. And the maximum footprint of this building should be no more than 1,000 square feet. So we're talking really small cabin. You're going to do an evaluation of the site today, virtually, not in reality. And that's going to take some Google searching, but I also provided you with some background information. If you go to exercise 121 page today, or if you go to assignment 105, this information is available in both places. There's a zip file that is assignment 105's site information. If you click on that, it will download a file, which is a KMZ file. Let's see if I can find it. And of course, I should have paid one here. We'll just download it again. All right, and it'll say assignment 105 building site.kmz. A KMZ file opens in Google Earth. And it's basically a waypoint. It's a GPS waypoint that'll give you the approximate location. So we're going to zoom in to Yosemite Valley here. Part of the reason I picked this as a site for you, it's this meadow, it's the South Meadow. Part of the reason that I picked that as a site is there's a lot of photographic data of it. So if you've never been to Yosemite, you can still look at the photos and kind of get a sense for what you're going to be looking at. So spend a little bit of time, click on the variety of little picture icons. The pictures aren't always placed perfectly, but they're approximately correct. And so this gives you an idea of what the meadow looks like, what the mountains look like. Pretty spectacular site. Obviously, therefore, it's pretty loaded in terms of being able to put nice windows in and that sort of thing. It also works really nicely when we start to do the collaging because there's a lot of photographs that you can use. If you were doing it on your own site as part of a design studio, you'd go visit the site and take the pictures yourself. But since we're not going to visit, it's nice to have a site that has a lot of documentation that you can play around with. So part of your job today is to spend a little bit of time evaluating this site, looking at what it looks like. You can, of course, spin Google Earth a bit. I'm assuming you're relatively familiar with Google Earth. If not, this right down in here is the valley itself. Anybody been here before? No? A few of you, that's good. Anybody hiked Half Dome before? Halfway? You did the ropes? The ropes killed you? Half Dome's fantastic. It's a really fun hike. Anyway, so we can kind of spin around here and we can see the valley a little bit. This is Half Dome. That's what I was just talking about. It's a really nice cliff. It really freaked me out. The only thing, I couldn't lean over and look over that edge. The best that I could do was stick my feet over the edge. That was it. But it was fun hike. On the back side here, this is completely unrelated, but it's fun to talk about, right? On the back side here, so you hike up. There's plenty of photos of this. You hike up this ridge, and then it's not going to let me. And then there's a set of cables. You can kind of see it right in here that go up this side. Maybe we can click on. Yeah, there you go. See, there's a little cables that you climb up. Anyway, it's really fun, as long as you're not afraid of heights. Anyway, that has absolutely nothing to do with the building site itself, but it's kind of fun when you're looking around at this. So let's go back to the building site itself and stop having me off on random tangents here. All right, so there we go. We're back in the building site itself. There is a stream or a river that goes by this. Obviously, it's drought year, so it's more of a stream than a river, but you get the idea. There is a nice water feature that you can integrate. If you really want to creep up into the sides and have a little bit of more terrain, that's okay with me. But I picked a relatively flat site, so you wouldn't have to deal with any kind of complicated terrain in your particular building site. So spend a little bit of time, look at the photos, get a sense for what this site looks like, what kinds of views you're going to have, etc. And then go ahead and jump back into the world of AutoCAD, and we're going to start to draw out our particular building. And so I don't have a building pre-drawn for you to go through, but I want to talk through a few things that we've kind of worked through last class to reiterate, but then also a few different tutorials dealing with AutoCAD. So I'm going to go ahead and continue working in AutoCAD. This is a brand new AutoCAD file, which means that I need to double check the units before I start drawing. So I'm going to type units, and the units by default are decimal. I want to change them to architectural, and again, the precision at a 1/16 of an inch is plenty for what we're doing. And I'll go ahead and say OK, and that gets me started back in my scene here. A couple things that I want to point out. I do have my snaps on, and I want to walk through how this snapping reference lines works today, which probably is on for a lot of you. For whatever reason, in my computer, it's off by default. So I'm going to go through that and kind of explain that. So let me go ahead and start drawing a few things. I'm going to start with the polyline. We'll start at point 0, 0. And then, let's see, we're going to go... I don't know. I'm going to draw the same building as last time here for lack of something better, and then we'll expand it later. Alright, so I want to go ahead and join these together, so I'm going to select them both and then type join, and those go together. Then I'm going to do the offset, which was up here. Remember, it's that little icon. It looks like two clouds almost. I'll pick offset. It's going to say specify offset distance. I'm going to do 6 inches, and I'm going to put it toward the inside, and now I have that. We'll go ahead and draw a few more lines. We'll draw a line that connects here. Now this is something that I wanted to explain that I didn't do a good job of explaining last class, is sometimes you have a place where you want to start a line. So for example, I want a line, I know that it's 6 inches, but I want it to start over here. And if I was just going to start my line, it would snap over here, or it would snap up here, and I'd have to trim off that extra piece. What AutoCAD does and what Rhino does is they have a feature that allows you to reference other points. And so this feature is called Show Snapping Reference Lines in AutoCAD 2015. It's right next to the Snap button at the bottom here. It looks like kind of an angle with a dot on it, something like that. Okay. If you click on that, it will turn on the snapping reference lines. And what this allows us to do is I can move my mouse over this point. See how I get that little green box, the snap? And as I drag down, see how it gives me a green dotted line? Right? That's a reference line from the point that I started from. And so I'll be able to drop that down until it intersects with this line, and then click to start my polyline. And see how that starts nicely in line? And I can continue all the way to here, and I can finish the command. So a lot of times that's a little bit faster way of creating a line, because I'm using something as a reference. The other thing that can be helpful is if you know the distance from some other object. So let's say I wanted to draw a window and I wanted it to be 1 foot from this interior wall, right? I can set a point right here. So once again, I'm in the corner. As I drag up, I get the green dotted line. Okay? Then I can type in a value. So I can type in 1 foot, and my point will start 1 foot from the point that I set. Okay, so it takes a little bit of practice to get used to how this works, but it's a real fast way of being able to draw referencing other points without having to do any math. So for example, if I wanted this to be 2 feet away, previously we did an offset, right? I could do the same thing though by setting a point there, dragging up, and again I haven't clicked it in at all yet, and I'm going to type in 2 feet and specify that that's my next line. Okay, so that is this snapping, show snapping reference lines is on. Okay, the other thing that can be useful is something called orthographic projections, or ortho, in the old school way of describing it. Basically, it's going to limit my cursor from doing angles. I'm just going to jump at 90 degrees. Right? So if I'm drawing a 90-degree line, a lot of times if I leave what's called ortho on, it can really help with that. Okay, so let me just make sure. Right, sometimes we have a line, right, that's inside or something like this, and I'd really like this line to be long enough to come over here and touch this, or long enough to come over and touch this. I can use a command that's called extend. Right? It's probably hidden underneath trim. It's because it's kind of the opposite of trim. If I click on extend, right, it's going to say select objects or select all. Right? So we'll select the objects. There we go. Hit enter. Then it's going to say extend, and it's going to ask me which line I want to extend. So here I wanted to extend that line. When I hover over that end of the line, see how it extends the line over to meet? Right? Likewise, if I come over this end, it'll extend the line over to meet that way. Right? So if you have a line that's short, this is a really good way of making that line long enough. So we'll go ahead and delete that for right now. We already did mirror. We did fillet and chamfer yesterday. Rotate is very similar, but actually I'm going to save rotate until we do something else first. So the other thing that can be very useful is sometimes you'll want to use what's called a hatch pattern. And that basically means if I have an object, right, let's say I had, I don't know, a wall, something like that, right? A hatch pattern would allow me to fill a pattern inside that wall. Okay? I can choose from a variety of pieces. So the command is B, as in boy, hatch, to create it. It's also probably available right here under hatch. If I click on that, right, I get the hatch creation ribbon that appears. So as I look through this, first option I have is to pick points. That basically says pick an interior point that I want the hatch to be attached to. So if I click pick points, right, I could pick, say, and it'll kind of preview the regions here. I could pick inside my walls, for example. I could pick inside this floor, for example. All right, we'll pick this for right now. It's covering it kind of solid and letting me preview it. Now, here I have some options, and this is the pattern. If I click the little triangle with the line here, I can see a much larger list of all the various patterns that are available. Right? And one of the tricks that more experienced AutoCAD users do, if they want a repeating set of lines, say to mimic floorboards or something, they'll use something like a standard diagonal hatch, but they'll modify it slightly, right? But let's use something like a brick for right now, so you can see how it works, right? When I click on the brick, you see that I see the brick here, right? Or the tile pattern, or whatever it is, right? As we come over here, right, I can also adjust the transparency value, and I can adjust the angle. So if I didn't like it going this direction, I could instead change the angle to be, now there it is at 45, I could change it to be 90, and it would be going the opposite direction. Okay? I also have the ability to change what's called the scale. Right? And so right now it's set to 1 inch, but if I increase the scale, you can see that the tiles or the bricks get bigger. I can obviously make them get smaller depending on what I'm trying to do. Okay? So I'm going to come up here to this diagonal hatch right now, and I need to make this scale a little bit bigger. Let's try 10. Nope, not big enough. A little bit more. All right, I'm trying to get a kind of a wood floor pattern. Let's try 40. Yeah, that's not bad. All right, let me change my direction to be 45. Let's go negative 45. That's the scale, sorry. This one, negative 45. There we go, because I wanted it kind of going that direction. And so now I have kind of a floor that's been established. When I'm done, I can just hit enter to return, to finish the command, and you can see that I have this patterned region that exists. Okay, I can repeat this, right? I can go back up to pick points. I can do it for this part, and suddenly I have both regions with flooring. Okay, on the back of the handout that you got today, you see that I have a bunch of suggested line weights. We're going to cover line weights in more depth next class. We're also going to cover layers in next class so that you'll be more familiar with this. If you're a more advanced AutoCAD user, you can start to play around with this stuff. Anyway, this was actually a request that was from a couple semesters ago where people were saying, what should I make certain line weights? And I think this is a pretty good guide for what looks about right when you're doing floor plans. So anyway, we'll get to that. So that's hatching. I'd encourage you to play around with that. It's something that I want you to be aware of. I'm going to go ahead and delete that so we don't confuse it. We already did talk about trim, so I'm going to review trim. Once again, I'll select trim. It's going to say select objects or select all. I'm going to hit enter to select all. And then I'm going to be able to go in and say I want to get rid of that piece and I want to get rid of that piece. Okay, so it's a little bit cleaner. I can also come back in with my line tool. Remember, I have this snapping reference lines. So now I can start at this point and go down 3 inches. And we can go across here. I like to have my perpendicular snap on. So let me make sure perpendicular snap is on. And why is it being... Oh, come on. There it is. We go down 3 inches. And then we can practice with offset. So I can use the offset button. Distance would be 3 feet. Offset from there to there. And now once again I'm going to trim. So I can type trim or select trim up here. All objects. And we're going to get rid of that and that. Okay? So we've gone through that. So the other thing that I want to make you aware of, and this is something to be aware of but not to rely on, is that there is an incredible amount of stuff that exists as AutoCAD drawings online. And so when you're trying to build something, let's say you want a stove in your kitchen, or you want a toilet in your bathroom, or something like that, there are a bunch of pre-made block objects that you can use as a reference. And so I want to go through kind of how that works. So I put a link right here to one of the sites. If you do a Google search for CAD block reference, there's a ton of them out there. So this is just happens to be one. I'm in no way recommending this. It's just one source that you can pick from. And so we can look through here. These are a bunch of free examples. So let's say I wanted to look at the dining tables, right? If I look at the dining tables here, they give us a preview of a variety of dining room tables. Let's say that I like this table. That's the one I want to do. I can go ahead and download the AutoCAD blocks here. Let me go ahead and open it, and we'll see that there is the DWG of these dining room tables. I'm going to go ahead and copy it, and I'm going to go put it on my flash drive. And in an ideal world, I put it in my resources folder, but my flash drive crashed, so I haven't copied my resources folder back yet. So let me, we'll just put it in the today's exercise. Today is 121. We need a new folder. And let me go ahead and paste this in. Okay, so I have this. Now, the problem is that this file right now has, if I double click on it, go ahead and let's open it, it has all of the dining room tables on it. And I really only wanted one of the dining room tables. This is the one that I wanted, right? So before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of a bunch of other stuff. So let me go ahead and delete this. And we'll delete this. And I'm just pressing the delete key here. All right, we'll get rid of this. And we'll get rid of this. And now I have this one table. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and save this as. So up here at the top, there's a Save As button. It's a little tiny floppy disk. Not that anybody knows what a floppy disk is anymore, which I think is really ironic that they still have that as the save icon, like we ever use it. But anyway, it's the Save As. Right? I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to name this. We'll call this Dining Table with 6 chairs. And I'll go ahead and click Save. Okay, so I have just this one piece, which is a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and close that and go back to my original here. And now remember, we had these different ribbons that went across the top of the page. There's a ribbon for Insert, right? That's what we're going to go to, and that is to be able to insert another drawing into this file. So I'm going to click on the first button here, which is Insert Block. And when I do that, I get this Insert dialog box. And from here, I need to go browse and find that dining room table file. Right? It doesn't matter that it's a dining room table. It could be anything else. Right? So I'll go ahead and click on Browse. And I'm going to go to my flash drive. Into my 135 folder. And it was 121. There it is. Dining table with 6 chairs. And I'll go ahead and click Open. Now, you see how it loads up dining room table with 6 chairs, but then it gives me a bunch of other options, right? I can choose where I want to put it, and I'm going to specify it on screen. That makes sense, okay? Scale, right? I'm going to leave it at 111. I'm assuming that the scale of the table is correct already. So the person that drew it correctly. If it's not, I'm going to have to scale it. But for now, we're going to assume it. Also, I could rotate it. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Okay? And so as it comes in, right, it's coming in from point 00 on that drawing. But I can just kind of dump it wherever I want. Okay? So there it is. It looks approximately to scale. Right? And so let's go ahead and move this into my drawing. If I select it, right, I can then use the Move command. So let's go to Home and then Move. I can move from a point. Right? And then I can repeat the move, and I can move it down into this building. Kind of makes sense, right? And so this is what's called a block reference. And basically I'm referencing that other file. Because it's a block reference, though, I have to keep the other file on my flash drive. So don't just put it on the desktop and then delete it, right? Save it with the rest of your work on your flash drive, okay? So there's a bunch of them out there, and so as you start to populate your floor plan, there's no harm in using some pre-made objects, okay? The biggest thing that you'll run into down the road in a studio environment is if you start to use pre-made windows, like exterior windows. Studio people, studio heads are going to be saying, why don't you just make your own windows? Why are you limiting yourself to these small pre-made windows? For the scope of what we're doing here, there's nothing wrong with using pre-made windows, so you're more than welcome to do it. But I just wanted to point out that that's an issue down the road. You'll be constraining yourselves from a design perspective if you use pre-made windows. But in terms of tables, chairs, furniture, toilets, sinks, stoves, no reason to draw it yourself. You might as well download it. So this website that I picked out has a bunch of free blocks that are available on it. You can kind of scroll through. Here's a bunch of kitchen blocks, right? Some are in elevation, some are in plan view. Again, open the file, delete the stuff you don't want, save as to get what you do end up wanting. Okay? So we've gone through hatching, we've gone through block imports, we've gone through fillet, chamfer, extend, mirror, and rotate. Oh, rotate. I was going to show you rotate. Okay, so if this table isn't in the right direction, I can use the rotate command, which is right here, to rotate it. Okay, so if I click on rotate, right, here, let me make sure nothing's selected. I'm going to click on rotate. It's going to say select objects. We'll select my table. I'll hit enter. Then it's going to say rotate. Specify base point. Okay, the base point is the point around which I want to do the rotation, right? So if I wanted to rotate around the center of the object, I'd pick a point in the center. If I wanted to rotate around one of the corners, I'd pick the corner. So we use the corner as an example. All right? Then we can start to see a preview, right, as I drag my object around. Okay, so there it would be rotated at 90 degrees. Right? And so when I'm done, I can go ahead and click to finish. Okay? There is also the ability to reference a rotation, which basically means that instead of picking a spot and then rotating it, I can say I want to rotate from a particular place to a particular place. So if I click on reference here, it's going to say, okay, where's your reference line? So that might be my reference line, and now I'm going to be rotating on that line instead. Doesn't make that much sense right now. There will come a point in time where reference rotate helps. Okay? So anyway, that's how rotate works. All right, so I'm going to turn you loose today. If you run into any snags or you want to learn how to do something, ask me, right? Next class, we're going to talk a lot more about layers, line weights, and we're going to do the elevations of this building. So be thinking a little bit in the back of your head what this is going to look like in 3 dimensions beyond just what it looks like as a floor plan. Okay, but today the goal is to have a completely done and finished floor plan. Are there any questions? Yeah. Generally, it's fairly backwards compatible. I don't know if version 15 they changed too much. I know version 14, 2014 goes back to like 2013 and 2012. They usually pick about every 4 years. There's a major change and the files change. If you do need to go backwards, you can click on Save As, and it'll tell you, yeah, it looks like 2015 goes back to the 2013 format, right? If you need to go back further, just do a Save As and do 2010. So you can see 2013 is one, 2010 was another, 2007 was one, 2004 was a big one, and then 2000. So you can see that they jump every several years. So just save it back as... No, it will look different. It's prior to all these ribbons and everything. Okay, I'll come over and help you.